प्रथम भगवती सिमर कै गुरु नानक ਲਈ ਧਿਆਏ अंगद गुरु ते अमरदास रामदास जन हर गोबिंद हर राय श्री हर कृष्ण ते आई है जिस डिठै सब दुख जाए एक बहादुर सिमरिए कर नाम दावे राय दसवां पातशाह श्री गुरु गोबिंद सिंह महाराज पंथ ਦੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਸਭ ਥਾਈਂ ਹੋ ਆਏ ਦਸਾਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਜੋਤ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਇਨੀ ਮਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਣ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਨੇਤਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਸਰੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਕਰਨ ਪਿਤਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀਓ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਚੌਧਰੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਦਤਾਰ ਕੇ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਹੈ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗੇ ਦੇ ਸਿਰ ਤੇ ਮਿਹਰ ਕਰਿਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਘਾਟਾ ਭੁੱਲ ਚੁੱਕ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨੀ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਜ ਰਾਸ ਕਰਨੇ ਸਹੀ ਮਿਲਣੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਿਲੇ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਚਿਤਾਵੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜੀ Ravinder Singh here connecting with you from Colombia and hoping to facilitate this session. I believe we are now at Pauri 34. First off, I think some congratulations are in order in that we've actually sustained this for as long as we have. I think it has certainly exceeded my expectations. It's been a little over a year that we began this whole process. And at that time, it was not quite certain as to where and how this thing would evolve. But the fact that we are here is indeed, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping for two things. I'm hoping that somebody from our Sangat will offer to perhaps moderate the discussion, at least for some time. So I think this is something that we should all take on and not just leave it to me. I'm quite happy doing it, but I think we should all share in this. And the other thing that I'm hoping for is that we continue with the same keenness and reticence at the same time that we have exercised in listening to each other's views, because my sense is that we are here to exchange ideas, we are here for a dialogue, for a discussion, and we've done that exceedingly well. I don't think we are here for, at least not from my perspective, we are not here looking for a particular answer, because I doubt that there is any single answer. There's a spectrum of ideas and answers that make meaning for each one of us in different ways. So I'm hoping that we can continue on in this light. We are now, I think, at a point in the Japji stanzas or parties from 34 to 37 receive a great deal of attention. We discuss or dialogue about the message of the Japji, because I think the feeling is that taken together, they review the entire message, they amplify the message, and they offer a sort of a roadmap, if you will, at least from my perspective, of the, and I've used the term spiritscape, not landscape, on the evolution of one's consciousness. So I'd be very interested in this discussion and your views on it. So before we proceed, can I reach out to one of you to actually read through the Pauri before we begin the discussion? Do we have a volunteer?
And I can read it with you.
Hanji, Dilpreet, please.
ਅਗਨੀ ਪਾਤਾਲ ਤਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਧਰਤੀ ਥਾਪ ਰੱਖੀ ਧਰਮਸਾਲ ਤਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੀ ਰੰਗ ਤਿਨਕੇ ਨਾਮ ਅਨੇਕ ਅਨੰਤ ਕਰਮੀ ਹੋਏ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਆਪ ਸੱਚਾ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਤਿੱਥੈ ਸੋਹਨ ਪੰਚ ਪਰਵਾਣ ਨਦਰੀ ਕਰਮ ਪਵੈ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਕੱਛ ਪਕਾਈ ਉਥੈ ਪਾਏ ਨਾਨਕ ਗਿਆ ਜਪ।
So Dilpreet, since you read through the Pauri so beautifully, do you want to walk us through, first off, on the message, obviously, but can you walk us through line by line and at least bring us all on the same page as to what the generally received understanding of this Pauri is? And what I mean by generally received is traditional. And then we'll move on to see what nuances there are out there.
Okay, I can take a shot at that. And
well, we are all taking shots, so.
So foundation or the change or what we need to do, or it is a stepping stone if somebody wants to progress. So it lays a kind of a step-by-step thing that, okay, you can do this. So the way I am thinking now, Guru Nanak is moving towards his methodology that earlier bodies he has been comparing things with others, and now he is setting the foundation where his methodology completely towards the end. So he is building that kind of structure, and then to build that structure, I just as a recap of whatever we have been hearing or whatever we have read in Japan so far. So this one is the stepping stone. It is explaining or redefining the kind of hukam or the we have read till this point. So Rati, Ruti, Tithi, Var, Pavan, Pani, Agni, Patal. Again, this defines that, okay, there is a system of day and night, and then there is a system of existence of Pavan, Pani, Agni, Patal, and then it explains that there is this which Tarti, Thap, Dharamsal. Now, Dharamsal is here that we have an area, or in this only, in this system, we have a place where we can learn about or we can practice our religion. And
so sorry to interrupt you. So would you say that in some senses then Guruji is establishing the arena or the sort of the ground where this practice is to happen?
right, so he is explaining, yes, that there's what system is, and then in which system this practice can happen, and then he is explaining what are the things around school or Dharamsal which can call around us. He's explaining things which are around us or the systems which are around us. So that way, if we say that this which ji jugat ke rang tin naam anek anant, again, as in past in Japji Sahib we have discussed that many creatures here and they belong to different families and different groups, and it keeps on like karmi hoye vichar. So again, in the past also word that what we do, our deeds, and according to that, there is a system again which will evaluate that what we are doing. Again, it is reiterating all those systems which we have come in the past. Again, Panch Parvan, Panche Pave Darge Man, we have that body. Again, it is reiterating those concepts that Tithe Sohan, Panch Parvan, Nadri Karam Pave Nisan. So, and Kach Pakaye Uthe Paye Nanak, whoever is good or bad, all those things will be tested. So, I am saying that this is again a foundation for the next body where all the systems around us or all the things which are in hook, which we have read in the past, he is reiterating that and setting a stage for the next discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dilpreet, for that very wonderful discussion. Eileen, can I reach out to you to get your take on this? I'm sort of thinking, based on what Dilpreet has just said, that of the Shakespearean phrase of the world being a stage, as if Guruji here is the world of time and space and species and so on, where this sort of journey is to happen. What are your thoughts?
I got the same idea, but I think that's the, like you said, the stage. But where I started to, that metaphor started to become complicated for me, or that image started to become a challenge, was in sort of thinking about the realms, or the sort of the laws that are applying kind of differently. And I guess I would describe this, I got this image of sort of, the wheels of a machine that work at one pace for one part of the machine, and then smaller cogs are in another part of the machine, and sort of this elaborate, working that's being described. And I'm just trying to kind of place the idea that there are certain things that are bound to the earth, and there are certain things that are in the spiritual realm, and sort of what's the point? So how are we supposed to understand and make sense of that? In this Pauri, it gets a little bit confusing.
Okay. So would you talk about, you seem to be suggesting that here the subsequent parties become important in this context because there seems to be some sort of a progression from the physical to the spiritual and so on. Did I get that right?
Yes, totally.
Okay. Sure. But would it be fair to say then that Guruji does sort of refer to the nights and the seasons and the setting within which this sort of earth is, if you will, the elements. He talks about the species, he talks about actions and so on. And perhaps, if this is a journey of the consciousness, which I have often understand it, that you can't have consciousness unless some way, and this might be the setting. Do you sort of think that might be a worthwhile suggestion to consider?
Well, I think that's where first we're talking about the stage of nature and all of this variety, and then we jump into the discussion of the deed and the spiritual side. So I think there's definitely kind of a contrasting jump there.
Well, I mean, your actions have to occur within this physical sort of arena, right? They can't occur in some other realm. They have to happen here.
Right. And I guess more specific, some of the challenge to my mind is the weighing of the deeds, the sort of the judging of the deeds, or the external, or potentially like they're judging this process. It sort of puts that it paints that picture of that sort of classic Judeo-Christian God in the sky kind of element. And so
that's a good point, because he also talks about kachapakai or teja, being half baked.
So the challenge to me is like, how do I bring that down into that internal spiritual level from this?
Thank you. I think you raised a very interesting point, and I will, in fact, reach out to Paramjit Singh Ji. Are you there?
Yes.
Glean, and I think she raises an interesting point about a Judeo-Christian notion of a God sitting in judgment. Judging, and I think that may be something worthwhile dwelling on. Really that, or is it something else? But in any case, share with us a particular point.
Yes, I heard Dharam Singh Ji and Eileen, and also read the blog too, and ideas are very well presented. I need to spend more time, but I will give you my initial impressions.
Please.
So what I think is, it is a Guru Sahib now is talking in the continuum, which has 4 different parts, but everything is built on Dharam, because that is a place where we individuals as human beings can do anything to take off, to move into next Gyan Khand and such. Here he is describing, of course, this what he calls, in my opinion, as Dharam Khand, this nature, this environment in which we exist, which I many times try to reflect or try to communicate that I feel this is a stage where drama is taking place, and he's watching all of these. Then Guru Sahib is telling me, my understanding, that you have to perform physical, mental, emotional, and over here. And then you have to understand, we move from one stage to the second stage, the Gyan stage. But question, as Eileen, somebody judging it, that's what I understand in the Judo-Christian philosophy, they are saying God is sitting and judging it. Of course, in our Guru Granth Sahib is talking many times that we are accountable. We are accountable because Hukam is out there, Hukam is very well defined. Anything we do, they are going to be Dharam di gal hoyi hai, badi hoyi hai. Chittar Gupt, we talk about it in Guru, whether these are just a myths out there, these are just there. What Guru Sahib, in my opinion, is saying that yes, there are rules, you have to pay for whatever you do, there's accountability to that. It might be very similar to philosophy is saying. So there is a accountability there, I don't have an issue with that. But coming back to this stage here, I again feel that but one question which comes to me, my feeling is exactly what I just said, that this is a stage on which we are talking about doing all the physical action. And then our spiritual takeover, what we call a flight, we take here, and that we will talk next. But one question which bothers me, I still have to think over that, is who this Guru Sahib is addressing. Is it a reference to my consciousness, or is it, I think that's where I pause here, and I think who is going to do this action? Is it, if it's my consciousness is there, is it something else we are talking about, my chit we are talking about? And I'm very confused about these terms, and I'll throw it open if somebody can help me understand who is being addressed here.
Thank you very much, Ji. Vijay, very, very interesting sort of course of action I think our thoughts are taking. So I heard you bring out a couple of things which I want the next person that I reach out to, and I'm not sure who I'm going to reach out to, whoever it is, to talk a little bit about. So Vijay, Paramjit Singh Ji mentioned Dharam Khan stage as the, let's say it's the platform on which this drama is being played out. There is also the Usal, this Thap Rakhi Dharamsal. You know, Dharamsal in ordinary language, any sal attached to it, like a Pathshala or whatever, is usually meant to be some sort of a training ground. So I would like to bring that point up. Is this a training ground for Dharam? Is this an arena where we actually earn our stripes? And then again, you talk about, you mentioned a word that I picked up on, a continuum. And then he went on to stages, which suggest divisions and boundaries. So I would also want to throw this out there. When we talk about stage phases, you know, because there is some delineation here, Dharam Khan, Gyan Khan, Karam, such and so on. Could it be the continuum that Paramjit Singh Ji Rana is referring to? Could it not be that these are also, apart from, I don't know if they're physical states, they could very well be states of consciousness, and that we might be experiencing all of these states all at the same time in a continuum, because it seems to me sometimes we're acting differently. But I'm just throwing this out there so that we can talk a little bit about that.
Can I just add something more to that?
Please
because since you mentioned something else came into my mind, that means that we cannot change the order. So question I have is, can we achieve Gyan before doing Dharam, or can we get to Karam without doing Gyan? When we talk about continuum, that means the order is fixed. You have to go from one stage into the next one. It merges into the second stage.
Good question. An excellent question.
Leave it there.
Yeah. Can we consider the fact that it is also, maybe it's not linear as you're suggesting. Maybe it is non-linear. in that you are doing a little bit of everything, and I'm just suggesting this. So we'll see where this all takes us. So is the process linear, or are the stages very porous? The boundaries are very porous that be flipped back and forth. We shall see where we go, and then the issue of whether this is a creator in the sense of a Judeo-Christian creator, where typically a Judeo-Christian concept of, I think that does not really sit consistently with how Sikhi views the creator, because I believe the creator and the creation in this instance are one. So we'll see how it goes. So Gurdeep Singh Ji, Montreal, you there?
Hanji,
Anji,
Sali.
Sashkal Ji.
Okay, ji. Yeah, my here is also like it's an arena. Sal is a worship place. Dharti, basic is for the Dharam. The whole body system is based on the same earth. Whatever we can do here, perform on this earth, same thing is body. That's Erlin mentioned also for the consciousness. Relate these actions here, and the similar action will be performed within our body. It's created on the same basis as the Dharti is. And so this is the first step toward the Gyan. You can't have Gyan without Dharam. So Dharam Sal means to do good actions, good deeds, which will be judged later on, as we see in the other stanzas. It says, Karmi Karmi Ohe Vichar. So this is the first step, which is Dharam. Second step will be Gyan. Then will be Karma, our actions. Then Sachkhand, God exists. God in Sikh concepts in two ways, in Nirgun Sroop and Sargun Sroop. God is, our Vaheguru is, within us. Ghat ghat mein harju base santan ke upakar. And in Nirgun Sroop, he's also outside, he's watching this play, whatever he has created here. So it's Nirgun Sroop, Sargun Sroop. In a way, we can say the third one is Yakhri Sroop or Sabd Sroop. So in Sikhism, we cannot deny that there is a judgment. Definitely, like Muslim believe, judgment day. Christianity, Sikh believes, but in Christianity they say that every day will come for judgment. When? But for us, Sikh, every time, whenever you leave the body, there will be a judgment for you, and you will be placed according to your action. The bad act down, and thus back, and the good one they say emerge into the supreme. This is how I take it.
Thank you very much. I think some things are emerging here. We are recognizing the fact that that Dharam can be seen as a realm of duty or action. It is hearing the suggestion is that it's both in the physical sense as well as the moral sense, and that these stages sort of are conceptually meant to describe the evolution of one's consciousness from the base of Dharamkhand on to Sachkhand. At least that's what I think I have picked up so far. And there are outstanding questions here. Paranjit Singh Ji Rana asked, who is the Guru Sahib addressing? Is this, and I think I kind of am suggesting here that perhaps this is applicable to the evolution of consciousness, and perhaps it is not divorced from the physical realm either, because you have to live. So there are some of these jumping at us. So let me. I think I've got Gurjeet Singh Ji left here. Gurjeet, if you're on, I'm just going down this list. Haji, have you been able to follow the entire so far? Because I just want to make sure you didn't get cut off or anything.
No, I was.
Okay, ठीक है जी. So give us your
take.
take.
Start from the beginning. The Pauri starts from Rati Rutti Thitvar. Brahm has created a creation for Brahm so that he could become a Puran Brahm. Where he starts from is Rati Rutti. Rat, where does the Rat Rat comes from rotation of Earth, and Rut comes from the revolution of Earth. So those two biblical questions have been addressed in two words. Then Thitti, there are plural words actually. Thitti comes from the moon. Nwar comes from the sun and moon created. And what happened further? Pond pani agni da sharir ditta san. The body, human body is made up of pond pani and agni. And in that there is a patal. Patal is a chetan which is joining these three elements together. Patal to bina jud kar hi reh sakde. Body, and then he refers again, this which tarti. And now tarti is that where to come and sow the seed of Naam. This which tarti thap rakhi, o center which a body de, within the body, thap rakhi dharm. Sal is a place where you have to gain something. Dharm sal, Path sal. So sal is that place in the Brahm Gyan. Because the Brahm Gyan is required for the man. Jeev needs the Brahm. Jeev is this which tarti thap rakhi dharmsal, this which ji ke rang. Whosoever is born has got a jugti to live in the world. If you're born as a kangaroo, you have a jugti to live in the world. If you're born as a fish, you have been given a jugti to live in this world. Rang is man.
So can you help us with the word jugti in English?
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰੋ ਜੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਕਮਜ਼ੋਰ ਹੈ
No, I'm not being, because I think we've got non-Punjabi speakers on, and it's for their benefit. I just
don't know what will.
So is jugti
Sixth sense ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋ.
So I mean.
So technique.
So Jukti, are you familiar with the word Jukti? I don't want to belabor the point, but I want to make sure that you're following the.
I'm not familiar with the word in Gurbani.
Jukti primarily, I mean, in a very simple, ordinary sense, refers to, you could call it a method or a technique. Virji is suggesting is that every species, Jugat ke rang, Jugat, of course, means that every species has its own inner processes. It has its own, it's inherent in them. So as there are processes inherent in Homo sapiens, so every universe or perceives the universe and acts in it.
I see. Thank you. That's helpful.
ठीक है जी तिनके नाम अनेक and within one animal kingdom there could be like mammals, and there's all within birds and there are different species. So this is what I think you have already mentioned. It's within naam anek, and now it comes back to human beings. Karmi hoye vichar. The best meaning I could find of karmi is your wish. Chedi ichha hai apni, the wish, that is karmi actually. So there are two in a Brahm, but for Par Brahm there is only one karmi. He always wants us to gain knowledge and come back to him. And that is his karmi is bakar. Karmi could be bakshish, could be anti-bakshish. Our thinking could be both ways. Hukmi, those who have obtained have got nothing to give lekha further. But those who can't finish their thought process, they were not able to stop the mind from thinking. They were not able to do jap. Jap is the only process which will stop this karmi process in a human being. So those who haven't done the jap properly will ultimately have to give an answer. To whom Sacha Aap, they are Sacha, and Darbar means plural. One Brahm, Puran Brahm is there is a Darbar. They are all same. Sacha Aap, Sacha Darbar.
Virji, cutting off a little.
Who are being honored there? Those who are Panch Parwan. ठीक है जी? Because I'm on the run. ठीक है, thank you जी. ते ओ जो हैगा, whatever who is obtaining honor there. Pande honor milthe son panchorwa nadri kar. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁਣ ਨਦਰੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਨਾ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਪਾਰ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਬਣਾਈ ਧਰਤੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਨਾਲ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਬਿਨਾ ਮਾਇਆ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਟੋਕਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੇਕਿਨ can you stick to English?
San means who is out. It's not traveling within Maya. San means to be absorbed in Maya, but like I'm speaking, this is not a Nisan Shabad. But if Nanak was speaking to us, he was in connection with the Nisan Shabad. So, विचार सच्चा सच्चा दरबार तिथे सोहन पंचवा नदरी करन पवे निशान कच्च पकाई होते पाए. Who is Puran Brahm or who is Nanak Japja? It's only being observed once you go there. So I will have to now ask others to continue.
Anji, thank you, Veji. Thank you very much for that explanation. Thank you. So I think Veji has very beautifully elaborated on the fact that I think what he's done is he's brought together what all of us are kind of feeling. The existence of this earth can be viewed as Dharam Khand. Similarly, the body is also a Dharam Khand, the arena of action, and the sowing of Naam to be done within the body. As I had mentioned earlier, consciousness needs to be embodied for this evolution. What we have not really, and he did touch a little bit, Eileen, on the whole business of judgment, and I think what I picked up on that is that there is divine justice, which is kind of based on a retributive model, and a retributive model typically follows a cause and effect. What you do, the deeds that you do, will in fact have a ricocheting effect, and so I think that's what I have picked up at least in the discussion. So let me go to you, Eileen. Now that you've heard one full round, do you want to sort of speak a little bit more to this story and some questions that you had?
Just a minute. Can we get clarification on Brahm? Who is Brahm we are referring to here? Gurjit Singh ji, if you can explain, so we know that Brahm. That was my earlier question. Who is being addressed? Gurjit ji said it very clearly. This is a Brahm, and who is Brahm? Is
Anji, Gurjit Singh ji, if you wouldn't mind just addressing Paramjit Singh Rana's question. I know that you have often referred to Puran Brahm and Par Brahm, and I think it would help Paramjit Singh ji and others perhaps to understand what the distinction is between the two and who indeed is being referred to here.
मन तो जोत स्वरूप है अपना मूल पहचान जिदे चो मन ओरिजिनेट हुंदा है the man originates mool means like a root as the plant originates from the roots same way and man is born out of Brahm. So Brahm is our jot but it is split between man and mool, so that Brahm has to get together. And there is another Shabad which is by Guru Nanak Sahib, Sorat Mahalla Pehla, Kirsani Kati. He clarifies this thing over there that how this dharti has to be used. Man hali, man has to be brought to do the kheti nu hali banana. So man is interacting with its mood, that is Brahm. And we have used different names of Brahm in the Gurbani. We have used Ram, we have used Prabh, we have used
So in the this is what Puran Brahm refers to the man or the mind, if you will, even though they are not exact terms. Just for the purposes of our discussion, we mind. As Gurdeep is saying, which is another word for consciousness, for spirit, individual consciousness. Par Brahm, by the very definition, I mean, Par Brahm, one that is beyond, is referring to the source of your consciousness, which is universal. consciousness, or if you want to use an everyday word, God. And if you want to understand, but I want to hold the discussion here. We are, I think, we are digressing. The meaning of this particular Pauri has become fairly clear. It's nothing. There's nothing very mysterious about it. From everyday, from everyday perspective. And I want to keep that everyday perspective going on, because one of the things that we want to always do in this discussion, these are some of the guidelines that we as a group had imposed on ourselves, and one of them was, when we have a discussion, there has to be some takeaway for me living where I am. I need to be able to understand this in everyday language, and then we haven't accomplished our purpose. I think you will agree that all of us have kind of gotten the gist of what this Pauri is trying to say. I can reasonably say that. So we kind of have figured out the world is a stage, that here is an arena where we have to actually sow some seeds in order to evolve, and there is a play going on here. And then the subsequent Pauri of the progression. So with that said, let Anji, please go ahead. I apologize.
So, to my take for this body, what aspect I agree with what has been said by. But further, I add that.
Anji, please.
These are the stages, as Paramjit Singh Rana has told, that what is being addressed. I think it is the consciousness, or surat, or these are all these subsequent to the stages of the levels of realization of the surat. I mean, what are the levels? All these arenas have been very well described in the earlier bodies also, and Dharamsal has been described earlier also. And here it is what is in this stage, what is these the four stages are that has been described. These are the stages or levels of realization of the soul or Atma, or consciousness. I take from this. So when I have to judge where my surat or soul is placed, so that I can, each individual can distinguish his own stage and on the path of Gobind Milan Kiye Teri Bariya. On that path where our soul is staged, where our surat is staged, to that realization, a Dharamsal realization is the, in this body, what are the duties of that, the realization of duties, the interrelation between various species of my species, that is what the realization of that comes in the first stage of Dharamkand. This is what I say.
I think Budhi just finish and then.
Okay. So let me, Sigveji, I think what I heard you say is sort of jives with a lot of what everybody else has said. I don't think there is any fundamental difference here. We are all agreed that what is being addressed here is the consciousness. Now, to me, that is logical. I mean, the body couldn't be addressed. It obviously, or consciousness that's being addressed. But having said that, Harvinder Singh, we haven't given you an opportunity to weigh in.
Hanji, I think everything is almost said. I only have one question. This body can be both for inside and the outside, but I am still not clear on Sacha Darbar. So where is this Darbar is?
Hanji, does anyone want to take that question from? Where is this Sacha Darbar? Is it a physical? Are you asking if it is a physical place or a non-physical? Is that what your question is?
Yes. So basically,
because when you say where, when you use the word where, it implies.
Hanji.
I had Can I
Hanji, Eileen.
Well,
Hold on, Didi. I'll give you have a chance to.
yeah, that question was kind of related to what I was exploring about this external versus internal
Yes, yes.
measuring process. And so for me, what I was coming to as I was listening was, I remember, if the creator is Nirakar, and there's not this external version, but I focus more on the internal version, I get this takeaway. The court that's being talked about maybe is my own, contemplation of my deed as I measure them against the creator's truth. So there's the court. The court exists in realm, and the court exists in my ability to understand and follow the punch and the sort of like the exemplar as the yardstick. So maybe
Yes.
sort of explaining the court not as I have no idea if I'm good or bad, and I kind of, at the end of the day I read and see, get my grade. So instead of that, maybe the internal process is to say the truth is, and we're lucky that we've been provided this marker or this sign. This is general offering that we have this path to follow with a punch, and then by following that we obtain the knowledge that of whether we are far away from it and kind of that raw state, or we're closer and more developed and more mature in our path. So it's kind of that section is saying maybe that chord is the measuring process.
Yeah. So let's see what others have to say, and I just want to add to this. I remember asking this question many years ago, which how is a deed judged in the Satya Darbar? Because we do have different systems on earth. We have different laws, customs, judicial systems, and it is interesting because what is considered bad in one culture is quite acceptable in another. So is there a system that transcends all of these differences? And if so, how rated? I mean, which ones are counted and which ones are not counted? And because we are performing deeds all the time. So I just wanted to throw in that particular aspect to that question as well. So now I'll open it up. Dilpreet Singh ji, I know we haven't come to you in a while. This is our last round, and so just be specific to these questions.
Sorry, I got disconnected in.
Hanji, well, the question began with Harvinder asking Sacha Darbar, where is this Sacha Darbar? So in other words, when you say where, you're asking for a location. Then Eileen chipped in to suggest that the Darbar is, or the court is really that the truth itself is the court, truth with a capital T, not propositional truth. And I then added a question that I had asked and sometimes still do, which is how are these deeds calibrated? Which deeds are counted? Which are not? And where, again, really the question.
Right. See, the way I take this is that in our day-to-day life, we are doing our deed. So it is that every deed has a result and it will get the same result. So you cannot expect a different result. And so that is what I am taking this as a Sacha Aap, Sacha Darbar, that deed, the input and output parameters are fixed, and then I take these other things are those subsystems, or as we are trying to solve a bigger riddle, these are the sub-riddles. As we keep solving these sub-riddles, the bigger riddle will get solved. So these are the limitations, or then there are some guidelines within which we have to work. So all of this is that the inputs and outputs are fixed. So if we do a deed and that this will be the outcome, so that will be the outcome. We cannot expect a different outcome.
So how do we, so two things, who's doing the judging of these deeds? And secondly, if inputs are fixed, and by logic output is fixed, then where is there room for any change? How do you sort of the fixity of the system then, if it is a fixed?
That is the steps through which our surt or consciousness or thinking has to go through, and the next bodies will teach us that what those fixed parameters are or where those flexibilities are.
I see. So you're suggesting that flexibility built in, so that is where we can make different choices.
Right. But depending on the choices we make, the results are fixed.
Okay, thank you. Paramjit Singh Rana ji?
Anji, to speak.
I could hear you.
No, when you mentioned that, I think I didn't think about this question before, but since you raised the question, and Dalpreet Singh ji said very nicely, and that is the line of thought I was getting into. It just came. The whole process, there's no calibration taking place as such. What is happening? Hukam, this hukam darbar is where the hukam is there. Is defining anything you do, there is going to be that. And that outcome, the calibration takes place anytime you do that, it gets some result there. But are we able to change the outcome when in the inputs are fixed, outcomes are fixed? Yes, inputs are fixed, but you have that discretion to add another input into that one, and that's where.
Yeah, Hanji.
Okay. So if you have two inputs going into that, and you get the, according to Hukam, you are going to have some output for that, outcome for that. But you have a choice to correct the first two inputs which are going into that one to have a different outcome. So you have that discretion to do it. So calibration is and this process is what I added. The whole process is called what Dharamraj is saying is this process where the calibration is in place, inputs are going, actions are doing, Hukam is defining what outcomes are going to be there.
Hanji Paramjit Singh ji, I think we are running out of time.
Okay.
I got disconnected. I've just on. Let me ask Gurdeep Singh ji in Montreal. I haven't gone back to him.
Hanji, Sasrikal ji.
Hanji.
Okay, subconscious, which become responsible at death. And in subconscious, you cannot put more than one element, more than one thought. Next life will be based on that thought, because the God have no enmity with anybody. He's free. I mean, he leaves you free. So there are only 5 things according to Gurbani, which one of those 5 could be in your mind. That's the first thing is your house. अंतकाल जो ऐसी चिंता में जे मरे प्रेम लड़के सिमरे ऐसी चिंता जो भाई गोविंद नाम बत Okay, I got is subconscious can go out of these 5. One is the sex. अंतकाल जो स्त्री सिमरे for his next life is a prostitute, and only the one who at the end of the life is in tune with the Naam, he is the only successful person.
Thank you very much. I think Gurjeet ji, you've got a minute to give your thoughts on this last subject that we are talking about.
Ji, Sanu, we have been instructed.
I think he got disconnected. Take a message and ask a question.
Hanji Viji, we lost you there for a minute, so we're not sure.
Okay.
So Viji, 30 seconds. You've got 30 seconds left now.
जब ये जाने मैं किस करता तब गर्भ जोनी में फिरता. This is कर्मी होए विचार. Until he leaves this, he is just here. He won't become Puran Brahm or Sacha Aap, Sacha Darbar. Darbar is a plural word. Sacha Aap is Puran Brahm. And G is, of course, G is Brahm. This is G Jyot Kiran.
Okay. Hanji, I think we are cutting off and we have less than a minute left.
Hanji, you waiting? Hello.
Yeah, disconnected. And the Gurdeep ji, Amritsar, any final comments?
I will take this question for Darbar and I will refer back to this Pauri. The location
Hanji,
well described in Sodar Tera Keha, So Kar Keha, Sarab Sunale. And the whole Pauri is about Darbar itself. I think the answer is there.
Thank you. So, Hanji, Ravinder Singh, are you there?
I'm dropping off consistently, so I think it's 10 o'clock. I can take the first 10 minutes of next week's recap this Pauri and maybe clarify some items that are still hanging out there. I don't think there's anything significant, but in the interest of moving forward, we won't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes and then move on to the next Pauri. That said, I want to thank for a wonderful, wonderful discussion and hope to see you next week.